Welcome to today's press briefing for the end of term work of the House Committee. The Chair and Deputy Chair will first deliver opening remarks, and then the floor will be open for questions. Dr. Starry Lee. Friends of the media, citizens, good morning. Once again, let me welcome you all to today's press briefing, and we will brief you on the work of the House Committee during the current session. I will first invite Deputy Chair of the House Committee, Mr. Chan Kin-por, to report on the work relating to the examination of bills and subsidiary legislation, as well as a study on policy issues.
Friends of the media, I'm pleased to brief you on the work of the House Committee in the 2025 session with regard to the scrutiny of bills, subsidiary legislation, and policy matters. During this session, the House Committee held a total of 31 meetings. The government introduced 31 bills to the Council this session. 27 of them were included in the legislative program. 4 were outside the legislative program. The House Committee also examined 2 members' bills. Except for the registration of same-sex partnerships bill, which was negative during a second reading debate, all 30 government bills and 2 members' bills were passed by the Council. Together with the 11 government bills carried over from the previous session, a total of 43 bills were passed this year. On the scrutiny of bills by members, the House Committee formed 27 bills committees this session to examine 26 government bills and 1 member's bill. The Bills Committee on the Housing Amendment Bill 2025, which was chaired by me, aims to strengthen enforcement against the abuse of public housing. The Road Traffic Amendment Online Ride-Hailing Services Bill 2025, which was passed at a council meeting last week, seeks to regulate ride-hailing vehicles. Public interests are at the core of these 2 bills. The former answers the call of the public for better use of public housing resources. The latter introduces long overdue regulation of ride-hailing services, whereby Hong Kong can keep pace with the developments in personalized point-to-point transport. The House Committee considered 200 pieces of subsidiary legislation this session and formed 11 subcommittees to study 27 of them in detail. These included the implementation of a paperless securities market, the registered fire engineer scheme, mandatory installation of in-vehicle recording systems in taxis, and requirements for taxi drivers to accept electronic payments. It is worth noting that the House Committee formed a subcommittee to study 2 pieces of subsidiary legislation made under the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance relating to the Office for Safeguarding National Security. This has made the role and powers of the office clearer. As national security risks could emerge any time, the SAR government has the constitutional responsibility to complete the relevant legislation as soon as possible in order to further improve the legal framework and enhancement mechanisms for safeguarding national security. The House Committee supported the government's goal of the sooner the better when it comes to taking forward legislative work. After the two pieces of subsidiary legislation above were tabled on May 14, a special meeting was held the next day, that is the 15th of May, to form the subcommittee with the same membership, including chairman and deputy chairman, as the previous Bills Committee on the Safeguarding National Security Bill for continuity. This is because these 2 pieces of subsidiary legislation were made under the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance. The subcommittee then held 3 meetings on the same day for thorough scrutiny and reported its work to the House Committee on the 16th of May this year. This year, 10 subcommittees on policy issues completed their work, 7 under the House Committee and 3 under panels. These subcommittees studied a range of topics including population policy, fintech, smart city development, support for persons with disabilities, manpower planning, and developing Hong Kong as an international education hub, and so on. Valuable recommendations were made based on members' observations. The reports of these subcommittees were submitted to the Chief Secretary for Administration and the relevant bureaus for consideration. Quite a number of recommendations have been adopted by the administration. Finally, I would like to thank Dr. Starry Lee, Chairman of the House Committee. Over the past 2 years, we have worked closely and diligently to complete every task of the House Committee. It has been an honor to serve as Deputy Chairman and contribute to the high quality and efficient functioning of the Council. As the figures I mentioned just now, please refer to the leaflet distributed by the Secretariat. I now give the floor to Chairman.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, Mr. Chan Kin-po. This term of the Legislative Council is the first to be formed following the full implementation of the improved electoral system and the principles of patriots administering Hong Kong in the Hong Kong SAR. Over the past 4 years, we shouldered a heavy responsibility in helping the government achieve good governance and opening a new chapter from stability to prosperity. As an integral part of the governance team of the Hong Kong SAR, the legislature has continued to maintain constructive interaction with the executive during this session, supporting the government in deepening reform and expediting socio-economic development with a focus on people's livelihood and well-being. This is particularly reflected in the high quality and efficient scrutiny of bills by this term of the Legislative Council. As mentioned by the Deputy Chair just now, this Council passed 41 government bills this year. 41 of them, which is a remarkable achievement. In particular, I'd like to thank the Chief Secretary for Administration for actively following up on the concerns raised by myself and the Deputy Chair regarding the legislative program and the progress of the scrutiny of bills. As a result, the majority of government bills were introduced into the Council before the end of April this year, which allowed members more time to understand and examine the bills in detail. When the Bills Committees examined the bills, policy bureaus also actively supported their work, including prompt responses to issues raised by the Bills Committees, thereby expediting and enhancing the scrutiny process. Members have earnestly fulfilled their constitutional role by carefully examining the bills. From the perspectives of their professional expertise, the general public, and the overall social development, they have put forward many invaluable, in-depth, impactful, constructive, and people-oriented views on policies, legislative provisions, and implementation details with a view to further improving the bills. Through the concerted efforts of members and the government, 35 of the 41 government bills passed year, or 85%, were passed before the end of July. The bills passed cover a wide range of policy areas, including those that enhance people's livelihood and those that are crucial to social and economic development. I would like to highlight a few of them. The introduction of the Basic Housing Unit regulatory regime to tackle the long-standing issue of substandard subdivided units, the replacement of the century-old deeds registration system with a title registration system for new land, the establishment of a licensing regime for stablecoin issuers to further consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international financial center, strengthening measures to combat public housing abuse and ensure the optimal use of public housing resources, providing new pathways for the admission of qualified non-locally trained allied health professionals, and introducing a legal framework to regulate online ride-hailing services, thereby fostering a healthy and sustainable competitive environment for personalized point-to-point transport services. This year marks the final session of the current term. Looking back over the 4-year term of the 7th Legislative Council, a total of 130 bills were passed, which is 49 more, or 60% more, than the number passed during the first 4 sessions of the 6th Legislative Council. This demonstrates the effectiveness of the Legislative Council under the executive-led system in delivering concrete results with a pragmatic and results-oriented approach. Now, in terms of incorporating members' views into government's legislative amendments, we have achieved a record high of 50%. According to the established practices, before the end of each Legislative Council term, members will review experiences and consider ways to enhance the Council's operation. During this session, the House Committee endorsed a package of enhancement proposals submitted by the Committee on Rules of Procedure. The most important of these is the improvement of the system for members to perform their official duties, including the formulation of the code for members of the Legislative Council. Other proposals include enhancing the operation of panels on policy issues and improving arrangements for duty visits. These proposals will be implemented at the start of the 8th Legislative Council. Clear guidelines will be provided for new members, and the transparency and efficiency of the Council's operation will be enhanced. This will enable the public to better understand and monitor the work of members. These achievements demonstrate the Council's commitment to self-improvement and excellence. They lay a solid foundation for the next term to uphold the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong and better fulfill its constitutional functions. Active interactions between the executive and legislative branches is indispensable for good governance. During this session, the government and the Legislative Council continued to engage in comprehensive exchanges and collaboration through the Chief Executive Interactive Exchange and Q&A sessions, as well as LegCo Ante-Chamber Exchange sessions. A total of 4 ante-chamber exchange sessions were held, with new elements introduced based on policy panels in order to enhance their effectiveness. Members and officials exchanged views on a wide range of macro and micro issues, which further strengthened constructive executive-legislature interaction and made the government policies more responsive to public needs. Members held 2 Q&A and interactive exchange sessions with the Chief Executive this year. They exchanged views with the Chief Executive on deepening international cooperation and expediting the development of the Northern Metropolis, thereby promoting Hong Kong's proactive alignment with national development strategies and integration into the overall national development. During this session, after subcommittees on policy issues under the House Committee have concluded their work and submitted reports to the House Committee, I forwarded the relevant reports to the Chief Secretary for Administration for consideration in policy formulation. Furthermore, this year, we made special arrangements for subcommittees to hold follow-up meetings with relevant policy bureaus. This enabled chairman and deputy chairman of the subcommittees to engage in focused discussions with bureau chiefs on key recommendations in the reports. These policy areas include fintech, the development of the second core business district, population policy, public works efficiency, and support for persons with disabilities. I would like to thank the Chief Executive, the Chief Secretary, and the Bureau Chiefs for attaching great importance to members' insightful recommendations, many of which have been adopted in the policy address, with a view to jointly promoting Hong Kong's high-quality development and improving people's livelihood. In addition, with the agreement of the House Committee, the panel on security, together with the Security Bureau, conducted a duty visit to Guangzhou to learn about local efforts in crime prevention, law enforcement efficiency, and the provision of facilitation services for the public. The panel on public services, together with the Civil Service Bureau and the Digital Policy Office, conducted a duty visit to Shenzhen to understand how artificial intelligence assists government officials in public administration. After reporting to the House Committee, the delegations have also submitted their reports to the relevant policy bureaus for consideration. This shows a new atmosphere of efficient, pragmatic, and close executive legislature collaboration as the government attaches importance to the recommendations therein. The Deputy Chair and myself have continued to serve as a bridge for communication between the Council and the Executive during this session. We have maintained close liaison through regular meetings with the Chief Secretary for Administration after each House Committee meeting. I'm grateful to the Chief Secretary for personally and proactively following up on the matters we have raised. With the improvement of the district governance system, the Legislative Council engaged in interactive exchanges with 10 district councils during the previous session. In the current session, we continued to arrange meetings with the remaining 8 district councils to exchange views on community development and issues of public concern. This enables the Legislative Council at the macro policy level to work together with district councils at the district advisory level so as to proactively give advice to the government in order to make public services more responsive to community needs and enhance the public sense of happiness. Matters discussed at the meetings will be referred to the government for consideration or followed up by the relevant electoral panels or the Public Complaints Office as appropriate. And that's the Public Complaints Office of the Legislative Council. Members have also conducted site visits with individual district council members so as to follow up on specific matters discussed at the meetings. As the current term of the electoral draws to a close, looking back over the past 4 years, members have taken the 5 expectations put forward by Director Xia Baolong of the Hong Kong Macau Affairs Office of the State Council at the start of the 7th electoral as the guiding principles, remaining true to their aspiration and mission, proactively fulfilling their roles as steadfast patriots, defenders of the executive-led system, genuine representatives of public opinion, high-quality governance, and pioneers of a new style of electoral. The legislature and the executive authorities have maintained checks and balances while cooperating with each other. They've continued to enhance Hong Kong's governance and fully implemented one country, two systems. At this critical juncture of moving from stability to prosperity, we need reform and innovation. Looking ahead, I hope that under the leadership of the Chief Executive, the executive authorities and the 8th LegCo will continue to maintain close communication and work in greater synergy to better serve the public. As practical participants in policy formulation, implementation, and monitoring within the system, members of this council will actively contribute to Hong Kong's prosperity and stability, shoulder the responsibility of promoting a better Hong Kong and deeper integration into national development, and work together to tell the good stories of our country and Hong Kong. We will ensure that people's voices are heard and responded by the government, thereby contributing to good governance in Hong Kong. Finally, I'd like to express my special thanks to Mr. Chan Kin-por for his dedication as Deputy Chair of the House Committee over the past 2 years, for his advice. I'd also like to thank Mr. Ma Fung Kwok, the previous Deputy Chair, for his dedication and for assisting me in chairing some of the meetings. As you may be aware, Mr. Chan will not seek re-election as electoral member. I take this opportunity to thank him for his significant contributions to the work of this council since he became a member here in 2008. I'd also like to thank the Secretariat team and the legal advisors for their professional support to the House Committee over the past year and over the current term, as well as their advice and support to the various subcommittees, committees, and panels. I welcome questions from the floor. Once again, I'd like to thank all members for their contribution. We have made remarkable achievements due to the joint effort of everybody in this council. The floor is now open for questions.
Please identify your media outlet before you ask questions. Does anyone want to ask questions? Please introduce yourself.
CMP. First, you emphasize the quality and efficiency of legislative scrutiny, but there is opinion poll showing that over 50% of the public expressed dissatisfaction with lawmakers' performance. Then why is it, and what should the next LegCo do to gain public trust? And secondly, several lawmakers announced that they would step down after this term, including some members seen as rather outspoken. Does this imply the LegCo under the new electoral system cannot tolerate criticism? And do you worry that this may impair LegCo's role in holding the government accountable? Thank you.
Okay, in response to your question, first of all, I think the report that I've just shared with you do clearly show that under this new system, we do deliver a very remarkable result, well, especially I think for the bill scrutinization and all the other thing. Well, I actually don't know which survey you're going anyway, but I think there are always high expectations from the general public. As a lawmaker, as a public servant, we always remind ourselves we have to do better to meet public expectation. That is normal. Second thing is, well, I think if we, if we all understand how LegCo works, we all understand different lawmakers do have different view, especially regarding the different proposal made by the government. Therefore, I cannot agree with your comment that there are this council cannot tolerate criticism. I cannot accept your view, and I do not agree what you have expressed. I think there are lots of comment and remark made by different lawmakers. Some do, to me, criticism, and government will consider our view in general.
好，其他提問有冇？
Next question. Good morning, I'm from Cable TV. I'd like to ask Dr. Starry Lee. On the website of the council, the luncheon last week was cancelled. I'd like to know if this has impact on the atmosphere on the Legislative Council and the relationships between the Chief Executive and the Legislative Council. Dr. Lee, you have been in the capacity of the chairman of the House Committee for 2 terms. Will you consider running for election of the president of the Legislative Council? Does your work conflict with your work as an NPC deputy? First of all, for events and activities organized in the Council, we regularly update these details on the website of the Council. We have different considerations for different arrangements. There were changes to some events. These decisions were made based on the views of members as well as the latest arrangements. On the interactions and relationships between the executive and the council, we should take a holistic approach. We should adopt a macro perspective. We shouldn't just focus on 1 or 2 single events. As usual, we will handle different activity arrangements as per our usual mechanism. Regarding myself, the current term of the council hasn't come to an end yet. I thank the media for your concern about myself. I will focus my energy and efforts on my current role. As reporters reminded us just now, the public have very high hopes on us. That is exactly why we need to do our job well first. As for my future work arrangements, well, the election hasn't yet started. There will be different lists of candidates coming up. If members want to join the next term of the Legislative Council, they will have to do their level best when it comes to electioneering. They need to be elected first. So it is all too mature for us to say anything about this. We should focus on our current role first. This has been my answer. Now, the next term of the council hasn't yet been formed, so it is actually too early to talk about the presidency of the next term of the Legislative Council. We called on the public to cast their votes. You should vote for the legislators that represent you. Then we will discuss the next step. Well, please refer to the Legislative Council website for the latest announcements. I believe the work of the Council and the work of the NPC deputies is founded on a facilitating basis. Some members of the public come to the Council to make their voices heard. We need to reflect or to relate their views. But I think it is equally important for us to express our views as NPC deputies to the Central People's Government. At the onset of the pandemic, some members of the public said that we should cancel the health codes. I expressed their views to the Council, and I am an NPC deputy. I also expressed my views to the CPG. Many legislators in Council said that we needed to strengthen the position of Hong Kong as an international financial center. A lot of NPC deputies, including myself, made the very same point as well. In the end, this proposal has been taken on board by the CPG. A lot of proposals have been taken on board by the CPG. They were expressed by NPC deputies, members of the public, as well as other legislators. We need to integrate ourselves into the national development, and we work together with legislators and NPC deputies to foster exchange. Thank you.
Any other questions from the floor? I'm from Hong Kong Economic Journal. Now, according to media reports, in examining government bills, the last term and this term of LegCo completed 120. However, for this term, on average, it took only 2 hours 26 minutes to complete the scrutiny of a bill. That's 50% of the 5 hour 15 minutes on average in the last term. So are you sure that the Legislative Council can do its gatekeeping? And also for the quorum count, is it that under the new era there is no need to call for a quorum or do a quorum count? And what is your take on this phenomenon? Well, I will share my views and I will invite the deputy to speak as well. This is the first term of LegCo to be formed under the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong, and I just shared with you our achievements. Now, we always strive for excellence and we'll continue to work hard and be pragmatic so as to help improve people's livelihood and promote socio-economic development in Hong Kong. Now, my take is this. You cited the time taken for the scrutiny of bills, but I don't think we should focus on how much time it has taken to go through a bill. Now, in the past, it took a very long time to complete the scrutiny of a bill because, as some of you here might know, those with ill intent resorted to filibustering and quorum calls, which was also used as one of the filibustering tools. I'm sure that members who joined this council at different intervals had strong feelings whenever there was a quorum call, because quorum calls were not part of our official duties in monitoring the government, but rather a tool for filibustering. So I'm afraid I cannot agree with your conclusion. We need to consider holistically the operation of this council, which is highly transparent. I understand that you may wish to compare the operation of this council for different terms, but we should not judge the efficiency on the basis of how much time it takes to read a bill. Now, we have more members in this term, and as I said, I thank the government for incorporating members' views. There are more committee stage amendments, and this is the result of our views being incorporated in the legislative process. I'm sorry, what's your next question again? Quorum calls. Now, as I explained just now, quorum calls were part of the tactic in filibustering in this council. So we had frequent quorum calls. For this term, we understand that there are high expectations from the general public. We need to uphold the spirit of self-improvement. Apart from revising the code for members in the performance of duties, if you take a look at the attendance rate and the number of members who have voted on motions, you will see that we fare quite well comparing to the previous terms. And I am quite confident that in terms of the attendance rate, we should have recorded a record high in this term. Now, because there is no more filibustering this term, there are no more frequent calls for quorum. So I'll give the floor to Deputy. Right, let me say a few words. You mentioned how much time it has taken to go through a bill, and it has taken much longer before. Now let's take this example, the online ride-hailing service bill. Now the Secretary approached members and lobby for support and clarified issues. And this is something really encouraging because the proposal received by the LegCo would be one that is already accepted by the majority of members, and there is no point in bickering over it. And this legislative proposal will have the support of members, instead of what happened in the past when members deployed the delay tactic in opposition of the bill. Now, in the past, I also invited members into my room for a closed-door discussion, and that we could share our views without making an open argument in the open meetings. I think it's quite useful. It also helps increase the efficiency of meetings. We don't need to waste time in bickering over issues. Now, I'd also like to chip in. As far as the Council's operation is concerned, apart from the figures we have just cited and the time you have cited, we also need to consider what happens inside and outside of the Council. In fact, at different stages before the bill is introduced into the Council, the administration would approach members for exchange of views, and that the proposal floated would be one accepted by the majority of members. I think this is a pragmatic approach to enhance communication before the tabling of bills. Now, since you're all reporters on LegCo affairs, I'm sure you understand that we don't just air our views during LegCo meetings. This is not the only channel of communication. Coming back to the Council's operation in this term, I think we should acknowledge that there are long-standing issues that have not been tackled. In this term, proposals were submitted and we completed the scrutiny with efficiency, such as the basic housing unit regulatory regime. Now, the problem has become prevalent because it has never been tackled, and now we've been able to achieve a breakthrough, and there is finally a solution to this problem. The other problem is online ride-hailing services. Again, this is another long-standing issue, and within this term, we have passed a bill to tackle the issue. So we have had some long-standing big issues that are not tackled for various reasons. And under the leadership of the Chief Executive, in this term, this Council has been able to at least take a step and drop a framework. Any other questions? Well, why hasn't anyone asked me about my expectations on the next term of the Council? The Deputy Chair will take the floor. Well, I will save my speech in the upcoming Council meeting. But let me just say a few words. As a member here, I sometimes feel upset about the criticisms of some key opinion leaders. They criticize members for not making contributions. They are not sure what we're doing, but in fact, they have no idea what we are doing. Well, they just look at the number of members sitting in chamber, when during the council meeting, they have no idea that we are actually working very hard in our respective offices. Now, this is not a fair judgment to say that we're wasting public money. Please understand that most members do not just work inside this chamber. We perform duties in other ways. What is important is whether we have leveraged different channels to enhance the public understanding, whether we're citing figures to show members of the public what we have done. Now, I understand most members here are dedicated to their duties. They'd like to fight the corners for the people of Hong Kong. There are very clear goals. Well, everything comes to an end, and for me, I have gone through the ups and downs with fellow members in this council. We have enjoyed the harmony, and we are all on friendly terms. I really hope that the members of the next term of LegCo will continue to tell good stories here so as to enhance public understanding of the LegCo's work. Now, my next point is I hope that the government will incorporate members' views as quickly as possible. Now that there'll be a clean breath of air with new members joining this council, they are surely in a position to tell the government what the public want. So in the early stage of the policy formulation, if the government could keep an open mind, I believe this will be very, very beneficial to society in general. Some members are competent and they'd like to give their views to the government and have them incorporated in the policy formulation process so as to make sure that government policies are catering for the needs of the public. We have our respective constituents. We're from the FCs or election committees. We have our own network. We represent our own sectors. What is important, however, is to level with the public exactly what our governance is about. Now, for members of the public, they may tend to be more short-sighted. For members and the government, they tend to formulate the medium to long-term policies. So I think in the early stages of policy formulation, we should publicize our efforts to the public so as to reassure them, and that a mechanism should be set up to make sure that members' views can be better incorporated in the policy formulation process. So these are the 2 points I'd like to make, and I'll save the rest for the valedictory speech. So, on these 2 points, what I want to say is we need to level with the public what we are doing to make sure that our efforts are recognized, and we also need to walk the extra mile and make sure that people's voices are heard so as to address misunderstanding and misconceptions. This government is really proactive. I say this from the bottom of my heart. The government has been very proactive and dedicated to solving problems. I hope that they win the people's support.
Once again, I thank the media for coming to this media briefing. That is the end of the media briefing today. Thank you.